The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The unnameable is the eternally real. Naming is the origin of all particular things. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. What do you think of that, Bob? Imagine Taoist philosophy as thinking of the Tao as the Force in Star Wars. It's probably the easiest way to describe it. So if you imagine the Taoists believe that there is kind of an all-encompassing Tao, or the way, or kind of spiritual energy that flows between all things, and that binds everything together, and that in order to be kind of at one with it, you have to, let go and just allow the things to happen. Is that your kind of understanding of it as well? That's what I sort of got of it is. It's basically Star Wars.
There are definitely a lot of similarities from what I've read. There are a lot of similarities, but I immediately made that connection myself as well. It's like the Tao. What is that? It's the Force. It's literally the Force.
And I don't know why Lao Tzu thought it was acceptable to plagiarize George Lucas.
I know, right? God damn. Have a bit of decency, man. Oh, Lao Tzu.
Yeah.
Where to begin with him, huh?
I know, because obviously from what I've seen, now we've obviously dove into this subject, dived into this subject. I don't know how you even say that word.
Delved into the subject.
Delved in. Yeah, we'll go delved. That sounds more like intellectual, doesn't it? We've delved into this topic obviously this week. And I've kind of had a sort of small understanding of it before, but everyone I've spoken to about Taoism this week has gone, wait, what now? And the only thing I can use to describe it to them is Yin Yang. And they go, oh yeah, yes. I know the symbol, yeah. But that's everything that everyone knows about it. But it's actually quite...
And the thing is a lot of people don't even realize that is one of the fundamentals of Taoism. But funnily enough, it actually wasn't created by Lao Tzu, and it wasn't initially part so basically Taoism came about during this time called the 100 Schools of Thought, which is around 6th century BC, where you've got kind of the warring states in China. There's a lot of turmoil and disparity, a lot of poverty, and this is the time when you've got sages and people, great thinkers coming up like Lao Tzu and Confucius, and you've got, this is when Moism was started, and then one of the others, it's also Sun Tzu, if you know the art of war. He was around during this time as well, so it's called the axial age of philosophy, and that's when it all came about. But anyway, Yin and Yang was actually initially its own school of thought during this time, but it was absorbed into Taoism later on, which I think another thing, because if Yin Yang is associated with Taoism so much now, it's kind of forgotten that the origins actually were its own thing initially.
See, I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. So that's really interesting.
I only found that when really digging.
Yeah. See, we've obviously we set a topic and we say, right, we're going to have a look at this week. And obviously we're not kind of comparing notes along the way. We've, before this we tried to say that we want to have an open discussion about things so that it's less kind of structured and stuff. Now, with something this complicated, because there is so many aspects to it, we've obviously said that we'll have some form of structure. But it's obviously a very basic structure compared to maybe some other people who are trying to educate. But because we're trying to obviously get across quite complex points, we've said, right, we'll have some structure in it. But in terms of the actual depth of things, we've found out completely different things, I think. And definitely. Maybe because of our own kind of predisposed interests, you've gone a different way to your understanding of things, because you've looked at it from different places and gone, I want to go and find out this. And I've gone down another little rabbit hole that I found interesting. So that's really cool. I mean, I didn't actually know about the 100 schools of thought or anything like that either. I knew about Confucius and that, Buddha and Confucius and sort of Lao Tzu were around the same sort of time. But that's really cool, man. That's a nice bit of little knowledge you've just dropped on me there.
Bit of information, yeah.
So I know that
Sorry,
the Daodejing, which is obviously, if we are messing up the pronunciations of any of these things, by the way, we do apologize. They are, some of them are very hard to pronounce because they're spelt like it's spelt Taoism,
Taoism,
but obviously then it's Dao, it's Taoism, and it's spelt the Tao Te Ching, but obviously it's like the Daodejing, I guess, something like that.
So we're going to be calling it the Tao Te Ching quite a lot in this. So just get that out of the way right now. We're going to be screwing this up left, right, and centre.
I did try and learn a little bit of Chinese to do the intro in Chinese, but it sounded so bad. I was just like, never going to work. It's so poor. I can't even remember it now because the way they like sort of pronounce things. It's very.
It's all about inflection.
Yeah, it's not monotonal at all. It really comes up and down like that. Oh man, found that really hard. But yeah, the Daodejing, was written obviously by Lao Tzu supposedly, but obviously there's some controversy as to whether he actually even existed or not. But supposedly it was written by him, and he was sort of like a city kind of philosopher.
Oh, yeah, right,
and
so
went off
the keeper
to
of records or something, I think he was.
Yeah, and went off to the rural states of China, like out west or something, or out east. You can see we really do our research. And
he went west. No, he went east.
One way. And so he went to this like rural village, and someone asked him to write down what he believed, what his philosophy was on the world and what he believed everything was, and he wrote down supposedly in one fell swoop the entire Daodejing, which is some of the most complex sort of ideas. Really, it's it's kind of like a classic in kind of spiritual literature, isn't it? It's very
Funnily
detailed.
Enough, that's in the name. So Dao means way, and De means it's kind of like it's like virtuous of self, I think, and Jing means classic. So it's like the way, the virtue of the way and its classics, or something like that, if you translate it directly.
And obviously the translation of it is, there's different versions of it, just because obviously it's translated from old scrolls that they found, because I think they found the scrolls like 300 years afterwards. But I think you probably delved a little bit, from what I've spoken to you about, you seem to have delved more into the Daodejing than I have. I think you said you'd found some kind of cool passages. Obviously I've just read out the beginning of it, which is just a mind fuck in itself. But what were some of the cooler passages you found from it? Because I think you found some good ones.
Well, I like, so just so to kind of get it out of the way, how like the nature of the Tao, of Taoism and the Daodejing, is the fact that even in the very first line, as soon as you start the book, is, the way that can be named is not the eternal way. He's basically saying that the more you talk about this, the less you know. And he then goes on to write 81 chapters about the Tao. So it's not just us that have tried.
That tried and failed.
Lao Tzu was up to it as well. Yeah, exactly. But I feel like if you want to encapsulate the paradoxical nature of Taoism, you just need to look at verse 38, which is, the highest virtue is not virtuous, therefore it has virtue.
Yeah.
It's not virtuous, so it's virtuous.
See, I couldn't quote you which like verse it was. You might actually know this, which number it is, but one of them is something along the lines of, a good man is good because he is the teacher of a bad man, or
that's
something
it.
like that.
So that's a different so what is a good man but a bad man's teacher, and what is a bad man but a good man's job? Now, I was really trying to take the meaning out of that one for quite a while, because this is the nature of texts, which are, it's one of the most translated books in history, and it's over 2,500 years old, and it's kind of almost deliberate in its nature of being paradoxical, and I guess it's kind of leaving it up to you to take your own interpretations of it. It literally will say one point, and then immediately contradict itself after. So like that, you know, you kind of you're left to your. It's not the kind of book that I feel like you're not just going to read the Daodejing and be like, oh, that was nice. I'll just go, go off and carry on with my life with this Eastern spiritual knowledge that I've gained from this. You're supposed to kind of meditate on each individual part of it. You know, each verse.
No, but you do
is
though
supposed
as well.
to be thought about. Yeah, you have to.
You really do. Like some of the things in there, it does make you. It's very thought provoking.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the lines in there, like I would recommend anyone. You can find even on YouTube. I mean, I'll leave a link in the description. I thought that worked quite well last time. I left a link to some of the other things we'd spoken about. So I'll leave some links in the description about stuff we're talking about. There's actually a really good YouTuber called I don't want to mess up the name because I want you to send you to the right person. So I'm actually going to YouTube it now. It's Iden Ganger or something like that. But because I want to give this guy props for being so good, I actually do want to go and find his name. And my internet's being really slow, so
I watched some really cool people while trying to learn about it as well. So there was a philosophy podcast which I was listening to, which I got a lot of my kind of because it's so hard to understand. You need to put so much time and thought into what you take from this. You know, we were doing it in a week, so I've kind of formed a lot of my basis of understanding from another podcast called the Panpsycast. Yeah, I've probably butchered that, but I have to give props to them as well.
Yeah, so oh god, it's a hard name to read. So it's Einzelganger. I tell you what, I won't even pronounce it for spelling for you guys. I will just leave a link to his channel in the description. Really good, worth a watch, because I think he'll probably just like describe some of the concepts that we're going to discuss like better as a teacher than we'll be able to just like tell you what they're about. But obviously, we're way more funny and interesting than he is. So stick with us for now.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate. I hope he doesn't see this. But yeah, and also I would say if you are interested in kind of the Daodejing, there is versions of it on YouTube you can watch. Really good.
There are many different translations, but the thing is it's often referred to as the Book of 5,000 characters. It's not anymore. It's more than that, and that's Chinese characters, obviously. But it is the kind of thing that you can pick up and read in one session.
Yeah, but then it will ponder with you for years.
Exactly. It's the kind of thing that you have to have like on your bedside table, and you have to kind of study it, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it almost has as much depth as this podcast.
Yeah, and is as paradoxical as well.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean,
we haven't really kind of gone into what the
general philosophy is.
What the general philosophy is, because there are some basic concepts. Other than you briefly went into Yin Yang, but there are kind of the fundamentals of it are kind of introspective, darkness, these kind of things, which are actually associated more with yin. And it's kind of like looking inside yourself to find the way of the universe, and the way of the universe is supposedly followed by the way of nature, and then the way of man follows the way of nature or the way of man. But basically, the great Tao is inside all of us. It's inside all things, and to know it is to embody it, and to align your actions with it is kind of the path of least resistance to have a fulfilled. It's not like a religion or a philosophy. It kind of is its own thing in a way that it kind of bridges the gap between the two, which is it's really interesting. That's why as soon as you suggested it as a topic and I started reading about it, because I'll be honest, I really knew nothing. As soon as I started going into it, I was like, holy shit, It's deep. I really like this.
It's really like, it's kind of life-changing, or if you let it be life-changing, it could be.
Yes.
Obviously you could listen to it and just go meh and just flick it off, but it really, like, if you kind of let the concepts of it come in, and I think it's with a lot of with philosophy as well, if you let a kind of philosophy completely engage kind of the back of your brain, it can kind of stand with you through anything, you know what I mean? So Stoics are a great example of that, and this is kind of how it describes the difference between kind of Stoicism and Taoism as a philosophy of person, as a philosophy of like self. It's like a Stoic is like a brick wall. Badness comes in and I can take it because I am strong and I am stoic and nothing will shake me, you know? Whereas Taoism is more like, I'm a river and it can come in, but I will flow around the problem and I will just accept the problem as what it is. And then I will come up and I'll come down. And it's quite beautiful, because I think the problem with Stoicism is when you do come across something that really is life-changing, massive losses or things like that, the brick wall can just crumble, and suddenly you lose that philosophy, and you come down to like the darkest depths of the soul, and you meet your dragon, as kind of like Carl Jung would say. It's like the deepest hell is inside your head when you have a really dark patch. And someone in the last podcast in the comment section kind of spoke about mental health, and there is, I think, a way that these philosophies really can help people that are going through hardship. Because if you are kind of like, if you allow the kind of philosophy of Taoism to kind of take over your subconscious, when things are hard, you take a step back. You come away from the front of your brain where all the stress and all the anxiety and my job's really hard today, and I don't know what to wear to school. And you just step back, you just relax back into the back of your head, where kind of the philosophy is kind of just manifesting itself, just going, relax, it's going to be all right. It's just a problem today, but in a month's time it won't matter. You just go with the problem. It's not saying run away from the problems, it's saying the problems are what they are. You're going to face hardship, but it's just accepting the fact that there is hardship and there is easy times, and just accept them both for what they are, and find the beauty in both of them, because there's not one without the other, which is that yin yang.
Exactly, the balance. But I think people as well, like, probably don't realize how influenced by, it wouldn't be directly by Taoism, but how they will say things which are Taoist concepts, like maybe it wasn't meant to be, or that's just the way that things are, and it's acceptance, which is that's one of the vital concepts of Taoism. And like you say about kind of stepping into the back of your mind allows you to be an observer almost. And then that's another passage in the book about how if you are one with the Tao and you know your source, and you can step into the back of your mind, then you become almost childlike, you become wise, and you become like almost detached. You're amused at things, and nothing can hurt you because you just observe. And
if you think of that from, if we're trying to put that into perspective for someone who's saying, I don't quite understand the concept here. Now, I assume that all of our listeners are intellectuals that can follow along quite well. But say someone is like, I don't really get that. Think Star Wars Episode 4, the first Star Wars, A New Hope. Think Yoda. No, it's Empire, isn't it? Oh, God, I've just embarrassed myself. It's Empire. Any Star Wars nerds out there are going to be like, this guy doesn't fucking like Star Wars. I do. It's Empire.
Unsubscribe.
Unsubscribe. So it's Empire. Luke goes to Yoda. And what is Yoda like when he first meets him? He's childlike. He's silly. He's a silly goose, isn't he? He's like, he's just mucking about. And it's because he's one almost, he's one with the Force. And he's just like, he's just being silly and playing along, and he's childlike because he is as close to, in Taoism, he's as close to the Tao as like you could possibly be, and then even more while we're starting, I want to get the Star Wars stuff out of the way because I'm a massive Star Wars nerd, obviously not, but in the actual New Hope, not the Empire Strikes Back, A New Hope, at the end of the film. Spoiler alert here, by the way, guys, if anyone hasn't seen it yet. I know it did come out in like 1977.
I love it. You still have to do that for Star.
It's like the new trend, isn't it? Yeah. So Obi-Wan Kenobi is facing Darth Vader, and at the very end of that battle, he just holds up his lightsaber and allows Vader to strike him down. And he says to him, strike me down, Darth, and I'll become more powerful than you can ever possibly imagine. And obviously he strikes him down, and he doesn't die. He doesn't fall to the ground. He evaporates into the Force and becomes one with the living Force, the living energy. And that is obviously a very extreme version of it, but that's what the kind of philosophy of Taoism is saying, is to be as close to nature and to kind of the cosmic energy as you possibly can be. And obviously, like that you were saying about childishness with Yoda, one of the things with Taoism, it says when you're born, you're as close to the Tao as possible, and as we age, we come further and further away from it. And so
it's almost the Eastern concept of how in Western religion we are like a child is born without sin. It's kind of like in Taoism, a child is born almost at one with the Tao, and then as they learn the way of man, they come away from it. And then this is another kind of nice concept of Taoism, is it's not really calling you wrong if you decide to not follow the way, which is the Tao. It's kind of, there are many paths through life. It's just the Tao is the most optimal path through life. It kind of dodges that problem of evil, because it is itself an amoral entity, if you can even call it an entity, and therefore it kind of, you won't be punished if you don't follow the way. You won't suffer like eternal damnitude or anything. It's just simply some ways to live your life by in order to be happier, which I think is nice.
Yeah, there's no scripture that you have to follow in order to get something, and that I think is actually kind of the difference between it. And I think this is the vinegar story sums this up quite nicely. And I'm not expecting anyone to know what that is. So let's do a brief kind of history of what that is, because I know you know what that is as well.
Yeah.
So the vinegar story in Taoism is there was a painting of Confucius and Lao Tzu and Buddha, and I guess the idea of the painting is that they've all gone, or the story is they've all gone to a vinegar merchant, and they're all tasting the vinegar, and the difference on their faces is what is meant to tell you about their worldview. So Confucius and Buddha have like a look of like disgust on their faces, and the idea is that Buddha's face is as if he's pulling it, like he's tasted something bitter. And I guess the idea of that is that the vinegar is meant to be like the essence of life, or the essence of being. And Buddha looks like, tastes the vinegar and says, "Oh, that's bitter," like as if, Buddhism itself is about self-mastery as well, stripping away and sacrificing in order to become like, what would you say, an enlightened being. So in order to do that, you need to strip away everything that is not enlightened. And then Confucius is like got a look of his like sour, like he's tasting something really sour, like in the vinegar. And I guess that would be, Confucius is his kind of teachings with that. There needs to be more order, like everything need to be structured in order to, bring it back to what it should be. Because I mean, I don't know loads and loads on Confucianism, or whatever the word you would say for that, but
yeah,
I know kind of a rough. I wouldn't be able to describe it doing it any justice, so I'll try not to, because I don't want to make kind of out there
Me
claims
neither,
about what
to
it
be
is or not.
honest. Yeah.
And then obviously Lao Tzu, who is the Taoist, is sat there with a smile on his face, and
Mhm.
I think that kind of sums up Taoism quite well. Actually, is that it's like, obviously the vinegar doesn't taste great,
It tastes like shit.
but yeah,
But it's
we
supposed
all
to.
know what vinegar tastes like.
Yeah.
But he's tasted it. But the look on his face is that the vinegar was sweet, like he's smiling, like as if the essence of life, in all of its kind of sourness and bitterness, and he can taste it and just say, yeah, it's fine, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Which I think is quite nice, actually. And really, if you think about, I mean, it's something that you have to do. I mean, even this week, I don't know about you, Bob, but even this week, just spending a lot of time thinking about this has like made me view things so much more like
It's had a huge impact
detailed.
on
Oh, it's
me.
insane, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I
Like, I
can't
found
believe.
myself thinking about passages in the Daodejing, like, just kind of pondering on it and just being like, yeah. I'm not necessarily saying, because there are a lot of misconceptions. So,
Like Sean Connery.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to make a joke, but I was like, it's too soon.
No, it's not.
Anyway, there are a lot of misconceptions about Taoism, because you've got Wu-Wei, which is the art of not doing, or of doing nothing.
Well, this is why we wanted to talk about Taoism, because we thought we could become lazy and be like praised.
Which literally tells you to do nothing.
I saw one video on Wu-Wei and I was like, we're doing a video on Taoism, Bob.
That's it, yeah. But yeah,
it's beautiful,
that is
though.
in itself a misconception, because it's not telling you to do nothing. It's telling you to not really desire. It's to not expect anything. If you go in without any expectations, it's from another verse, then you're always successful. But yeah, it's not about not doing anything. It's about doing, using the way to do things in the most efficient way possible. I'm running out of words.
I've got another good line from it, which was along the same lines as a good man. So it's a good man does nothing but leaves nothing undone.
Yes, precisely.
Which is
that,
which sums it up. What you're trying to say
does.
quite well, I think, is that
Thank you.
it's not that you're striving to all right, I'm gonna make sure that I get this done. It's going to be perfect. The like, I guess the idea of it is that you should be doing what you're capable of doing, and doing it well, and not even thinking about it, because someone who is like a master of what they do just goes in, it's smoothly done, and they don't even feel like they've done anything because they're in flow. Just, it's done, and that, and they've left, and a good man does nothing but leaves nothing undone. I think it's a great way of putting it, and obviously that's why it's 2,500 years old and is still being spoken about today.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's beautiful. And I have put that into my life a little bit. I'm going, right, where am I putting my time properly? What should I be focusing on? And what should I just be saying? Why am I trying so hard at this specific thing? Because this actually,
it's the expectations,
I could be doing something smoother.
Yeah, smoother, more efficient. It's not that you are not doing. You are still doing. I heard a good analogy on it, which was, if you imagine a runner, they reach a certain point where the running is automatic, and the ego of the runner disappears, and instead they're almost empty, but their body is just running and running. And I know that you will know this, being a runner, and I was actually running while listening to the podcast, where I heard this, and I was like, whoa. But yeah, that emptiness inside, you aren't thinking of running anymore. You aren't willing yourself to run anymore, but you still are. It's the being and the not being it's the doing and not doing. It's
Yeah.
almost like the autopilot. You are doing things the way that is just easy. It's kind of no resistance in your mind, and you can kind of then devote yourself to it wholeheartedly without actually being like super focused, trying to to give it your all and getting upset when it doesn't work out the way you wanted it to.
That's that flow state, isn't it? The running is obviously the runner's high, and you say obviously you will understand it. Now I understand it a little bit because obviously I've done a bit of running. I think really to be able to fully appreciate that, you'd need to be someone that ran like every day, and then that's when you get to a level of it where like your fitness is no longer the issue. So you're not running in like I guess like trying to keep your breath or trying to make sure your legs don't hurt. You're just running and it feels so natural. Now I've never really, I've had runners highs where I've been in a kind of flow state where it's just feels like I'm just gliding, but it's very short.
The flow state doesn't last forever. Yeah, that's the thing.
No,
then your
but
fitness comes into it.
It would last a lot longer for someone who is like a professional marathon runner. And the idea with the flow state is it's that if I can find a graph on this that looks good, I will put it up now on the video, and you will hear us right now talking underneath the picture. And this is so meta.
It's only if you can find a graph. Otherwise, they're just going to be awkwardly looking at us like, there's a graph here. You can see a graph.
And right now, we're just completely discussing nothing about this graph that's sat on screen. But yeah, so there's this graph that I've seen before about the flow state, which is like the difference between anxiety, flow, and boredom, which is that it's, I guess on one side of the graph, you'd have like your level of competence. Now I'm trying to remember this off. I can't remember fully, but I would guess that it would be something like on one side, you've got the level of competence. And on the other side, you've got, oh God, I'm going to have to find it. That was so loud. I'm not clever enough to figure out.
I suppose I should like monologue about something to make this less awkward for you, but I'm kind of enjoying it.
Fuck you, Bob. So all right. So on one side, you've got the level of challenge, and on the other side, you've got the level of skill. Okay, so can you kind of perceive that as like how hard something is on this side and how competent you are on the other side? Yeah. So if you start off in the very bottom left, like at the 0-0 mark, someone who has no skill or very little skill, but the challenge is very little, then they're going to find that the perfect amount of hardness. Someone who's very, very skilled needs something that's very, very challenging for them to get into that flow state. If you have someone who is very skilled, but the level of challenge is really low for them, they're going to be bored. So on this graph, on the right-hand side, kind of like all the way up for that level of the person that's really competent is just going to be bored out of their brain because their skill level way outdoes the task they're doing. On the other side of it, if they have a low level of skill, if there's someone that's not very competent in this, I'm not saying in general, I'm saying in the specific thing they're doing, and then the task is really hard, then they'll just be anxious about it because it's too hard for them. They're too challenged. And flow is that line that would go up that graph, which is like X and Y.
The correlation between the two,
X equals Y. That straight line graph there would be this. The level of skill matches the level of challenge.
Right.
So that is what flow is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why you see people who are just so incredible at something, just push themselves to that little bit extra, to the edge of anxiety, and that's where we go, oh wow, they've done something incredible. Like if you think of like a gymnast, Someone could come out and they've done the most perfect routine, like everything, like, you know, triple backflips, and they've done all the roly-poly. I don't know any words for gymnastic stuff. They've done everything. They've done a perfect routine by all, like, they've not put a step out of line, and then they score 99999, whatever the scoring is, and then another gymnast is watching that and going, "Oh God, I've got to follow that." But if they come out and push themselves to the very edge of like what's capable, that's when people go, "What?"
Wow.
You know, because they've just like pushed themselves that little bit extra, so they've almost come out of that flow state into that kind of touching on anxiety, hardship, where like you at any moment it could all fall apart.
It's too
and
much.
you know, that's when the kind of chaos and order thing comes back into it. And I know this is all intertwined because it's all the same philosophy, but it's where that kind of like the yin state has that little speck in the yang state, where you go, they've pushed themselves right up to the limit where it would, you know, the breaking point, and then they've succeeded. And that's kind of flow for you. That's what flow means. It's the difference between boredom and anxiety. It's that line in between the two, and it can be wide in some fields and small in other fields.
And for all you people on Spotify, fuck you guys, you don't get a graph.
Well, you can go and subscribe to the YouTube as well. I mean, it wouldn't hurt to be on both platforms and give us some support every now and again. So along with that, though, with the Wu-Wei stuff and with the flow stuff, comes that Qi thing, which is kind of, I think, I'm not sure if it's just in Taoism. I mean, it's bad, and I don't know enough about Eastern culture to know about whether Qi is something that is across all kind of spectrums
it's
of
across
Eastern culture.
All, it's just a basic concept along with Yin Yang, actually.
Yeah.
And they kind of supposedly came about at the beginning of the universe. So there's another verse in the Daodejing which says, the Tao or the Wei begets one, one begets two, two begets three, and three begets the myriad creatures who bear the yin on their backs and embrace the yang in their arms, and the regenerative opposites, that the opposite powers that they bring. And I take that to mean as the one. So the one is the chi, and it's kind of the ultimate universal constant that binds things together, which is, you know, created by the Tao in the beginning. And then you've got the yin and the yang are the two, which then lead to the myriad creatures and the 10,000 things.
What are the 10,000 things?
I think the 10,000 things is just I think it's just a number which is assigned to all things. It's a bad number because
it's not very many things, is it?
No.
The whole way through Taoism, they're going, and you'll find out about the 10,000 things, and I'm going, what are the 10,000 things they see so as important?
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the thing. For me, in that verse, the myriad creatures and the heavens and the earth and humanity are the 10,000 things.
Right.
I could be completely wrong.
Yeah. See, I didn't know if Qi was meant to be like your personal. I didn't know if Qi was kind of your personal,
like your aura.
Yeah, your aura towards the Tao. So like that was your connection to the Tao. I didn't know if that's what it was trying to say, or if it was just that is kind of also the Tao. You know, because they say about your Qi, don't they? So is it that it's a personal thing that everyone has their own Qi, or is it?
I think no, it's more focusing. I think Qi is universal energy. Qi is, you know what? There was something that I kind of like the explanation of Qi. It was like psychoactive energy. It's like a primordial conscience in motion. Try and wrap your head around that. Primordial consciousness.
Say that again,
motion.
But slowly, because I want to hear that again. So psychological
psychoactive. It's psychoactive energy of primordial consciousness in motion. It's like universal energy which is focused by the individual.
Right.
Like the Force, literally like the Force. The Force is all around you, and Jedi only focus the Force. Like you focus the universe's chi. I think all things in the universe have I'm probably completely bullshitting here, but I think all things in the universe are supposed to have chi, including the universe itself. And it's focusing.
See, I'm not sure if I have the brain horsepower to have deciphered that from what you said 2 minutes ago. I was like, you could hear the tractor engine starting up in my head going, like, come on, digest it. This is not going in.
Primordial consciousness in motion. What does that even mean?
Did you write that down? How do you remember that?
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah. Oh, you did? Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, I've written that one down. Yeah, because I couldn't. You're
making me feel stupid. Amazing. Yeah. Something I thought was cool with Tai Chi. Sorry, with Chi, was Tai Chi.
Yes.
Which is obviously it's a martial art. Supposedly, when you do it fast, it's like boxing, like it's a fast paced. Now, obviously, you only ever see people doing it slowly because they're trying to be as precise with their movement as possible. And I guess that's about kind of balancing the energy in the right places and knowing, listening to the flow of the universe and the Tao to, I don't know how they would describe it themselves. I don't want to come across as uncultured by saying it wrong. But it's a martial art of movement. And I found a little interesting fact that I think you'd like, which I haven't told you yet because I thought I'm going to save this for a while because this is like a jaw drop moment for you. Face. So Tai Chi, the translation of it into Japanese is Aikido. So Tai Chi, so the I is Tai, the Ki is Chi, and the Do is Dao. So Aikido in Japanese is Tai Chi Dao in Chinese.
Oh wow, okay.
So no they are from That's the insane. Same. They are from That's the same. We need the swear jar. Where's the insane swear jar?
Guys, it's insane.
We said insane probably like 25 times on the last podcast. I think actually, if anyone wants to have a nice drinking game with their buddies when this lockdown's over, get the beers in and just take a shot every time someone says insane, crazy, madness.
Or mad. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, mad, mate. It's mad, isn't it?
No, yeah. Go to like reel off some nice information and be like, and that's mad.
So we tried to limit ourselves, and we are going to have a little swear jar in place in future episodes.
I've not actually said it once until then. I slipped up.
Yeah. That is cool, though, isn't it? I thought that Tai Chi and Aikido are the same concept.
I had no idea. What I found out was that Tai Chi Chuan, the full. So Tai Chi is like ultimate, or like ultimate, and then Chuan is like fist, which is just like the coolest name for a martial arts thing.
Ultimate fist.
Ultimate fist. Exactly.
That is kind of cool, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, I've had so many arguments with my little brother about the effectiveness of Aikido as well, and I think.
Oh really?
Yeah, maybe doing this a little bit has made me appreciate Aikido as an art.
Yeah,
it's still not effective.
No,
if someone's coming at you, but in terms of movement guys. And I mean, come at me, bro. What are you gonna do with your Aikido? I do BJJ, man. I'm rubbish at that. I'm a white but yeah, Aikido, interesting one. And I thought actually the before we move on from the Wu-Wei stuff, because I do want to actually delve into Yin and Yang properly, because I know we've kind of gone to it a few times, but I would like to properly, because I think there's so much interesting kind of stuff on there. But before we went on to go on to Yin and Yang, I'd like to just talk about the cook and the knives story.
Oh yeah, okay.
Have you've probably seen this one? This is quite a common one in Taoism. Kind of, they have a few stories about them. don't they?
There's quite a
There's
few.
always
So
a
there
few
was the
stories that are quite cool.
yeah. So there was the cook and knife one. There was the horse one. The horse one, which is about like how you don't even. No, I'm not going to go into it because I'll end up just telling the story. Let's do the cook and knife story. The cook and knife story. Go ahead.
Cook and knife story. Yeah, cool. Although I would say, if you guys kind of are listening to this going, I like kind of roughly what they're saying, but I don't really understand what the hell they're saying. There are some great videos out there that will run down these concepts, so you can just go and like, they're amazing. So after you've watched the entire, however long this is, you know, we want to make sure that our stats look good and everyone gets to the end. After you finish this, go and find some videos if you're interested, because there is like amazing stuff on this, and like my mind has been physically like altered. Like I can feel myself thinking different ways because of some of the stuff I've learned this week, and that's amazing. As
that's insane.
You know, as someone that is it's insane. As someone that's like I would consider myself pretty much like my kind of my goals and my values are kind of already aligned, and my kind of, you know, I would say I was like
rethinking it,
and now I'm rethinking so much stuff that I'm like, oh, that's, you know, maybe I am looking at it in a bit weird way. But anyway, the cook and knife story. Finally, let's get to it. So it's basically this storyteller goes to, I don't know what the I don't know what he's meant to be, but someone goes to a cook's restaurant, and he sees the chef there, and if I guess you'd imagine kind of like an Oriental chef, just there with this incredibly sharp blade, and he's there and he's slicing through this meat, and he says that the cook is cutting through this meat in a way that he's never seen, in that like the blade never touches any bone or side, like, you know, nothing, like it just glides through the meat and doesn't cut into any of the flesh or any vessels. Everything's left completely untouched. He's just finding the most perfect route to like dissect this animal. And he says to the chef, how are you doing it so well? And he says, well, when I first started, I would hack the meat because I couldn't cut. And then as I got into it more, I could cut the meat, and then I would slice the meat. And he said, now I don't see the animal as an animal. My blade goes where it flows, where there's the path of least resistance.
The path of least resistance.
Yeah,
exactly.
and it just glides through, and he has like the perfect, you know, the chunks of steak and whatever else they're making. And I thought that was an amazing story. And there's that you know, the little kind of add-on, the bit they say at the end where like a bad chef changes his knife every month, and a good chef changes them every year, and this chef had not changed his knives for 9 years.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And like to keep the blade sharp, you have to find the path of like least resistance in life. You know, I mean, they're all kind of allegories for your life, as opposed to just being a, you know, it's not literally, if you're a chef, find the path of least resistance. Just in case anyone thought that. But any chefs out there, if you change your knives in the last year, then you suck. What has this podcast become? Oh God. Anyway, Bob. What do you think about that story?
God, I'm choking. Yeah, that to me, that sums it up, because it's that Wu-Wei, path of least resistance. You know, it's kind of like I heard another one where if there were a boulder in a path, the Confucian would find a way to destroy the boulder, but the Taoist would find the way around the boulder, or just sit there and wait for nature to naturally
take
erode the boulder. Exactly, yeah, because that's the way. That's the way of the Tao, is to let things take their course. And it's almost like that's what the chef is doing. He's letting the knife follow its natural course. Actually doing that in practice, I cannot assure you what levels of success that you will have. But yeah.
Well, I think the idea is that through repetition you gain competency, which is why there's that kind of adage about he is, you know, when I first started, so he's not always been this good, When he first started, he was hacking the meat as well. And it's the fact that he's taken time to stay with something that it would, for most people, seem, oh, that's just a repetitive task. But it's like the act of like repetition and focus and mindfulness about what he's doing. He's not, because you could be a cook and work for 9 years and go in and just hack the meat every day. But he's been mindful, he's been patient, he's been delicate, he's listened to the Tao in the way he's cutting, and he's slowly got better and better and better. So it's kind of saying, take the mundane tasks that you find and see the beauty in them and spend time with them. And I think that can be said for like a lot of things, because you can find your job dull and be like, oh, it's so boring being here. Or you can say, well, I can do this in a flow state. I can, you don't need to be bored. You can find the beauty in things and do them to a great level. And the way to do that is to be mindful of everything you're doing, which I think is the point of that story. Is that there probably is some underlying piece about that, where it's mundane tasks can still have great kind of attitudes put to them.
That's it. Yeah, it's all about the way that's kind of like a link to Stoicism as well, in a way. It's kind of like the things that you can control, like yourself and your feelings and the way you approach and the way that you perceive things to be, is the way that you're going to
feel
that
them.
you're going to kind of exactly. Which
I think maybe I put sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So I think maybe I put my because I kind of the last few years I've kind of gone through that kind of Stoic kind of philosophy thing where I'm Stoic and I battle hard and then I do not let things and I think this kind of eroded that in me a little bit with that. Well, I can feel bad too.
Because they kind of share the same. They share
are
the
similar.
same.
They really are. Similar, yeah.
But like you say, it's being more with the flow and adapting to situations, rather like literally like you said before about the wall. It's about softening yourself, being supple as opposed to being rigid. And I think that is probably more healthy.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think Stoicism is like the West's answer. I think it was Zeno in Greece, wasn't it? That
it's Hellenistic,
sort of
I think, kind of.
Yeah, so that's like a Western version of Taoism, and obviously it would have. I guess I don't know what the time frame would be. When would that have been? Ancient Greece.
I think it's
Similar
actually like 3rd century BC. So it's it's in the same kind of 300-year time span.
It's amazing, man. The people, it's mad, isn't it? How I just said it again. It's very interesting, I will say, how much philosophy came from then and is still around now.
From that, it's crazy. Yeah, I guess why it's called the axial.
Said it again.
Yeah.
Everyone's drunk already.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's going to be the next one. I say brilliant a lot as well.
I do think, I don't know. I don't know how. Do you think they just had more time to think? Or was there just more people thinking about things like that? Or was it that there was no philosophy then, so those things came through?
Yeah. I think probably like the point that civilization was in at that time, maybe it was just kind of that like adaptation to modern societal structures and the kind of conflict that comes with that. I think that's probably what's because for example in China with the warring states, you've got like seven different dynasties and like different lords and things that are all fighting it out, and it's immense turmoil, and that gives rise to people who it's like an answer to it, like wait, do it this way.
Yeah, Taoism was in the I don't want to mess it up. I think it was in the Jing dynasty, like Ching. So
it was just before. Yeah.
It was just before, right? Okay.
Just before. So the Qing dynasty kind of spelt the end of the 100 schools of thought. So that was kind of at the 200 BC, I think. And so out of the 100 schools of thought, there was legalism, which was the school of thought that the Qing dynasty followed. So they kind of it was a period called, I'm going to get this wrong, the burning of books and the burying of scholars. That was the time period where they basically sought to destroy other schools of thought and focus on legalism, which is how Chinese civilization has progressed, with very strong emphasis on laws.
It's very similar to like the kind of Catholic, burning of the.
Yeah, definitely. It is. It's very similar to that. So they had that period as well.
People were nuts, weren't they? People were nuts back then, man.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I mean, they still. I mean, to be fair, they still are. Like, I mean, it wasn't 100 years ago. You're looking at communism, so I get. I mean,
we won't get into that one.
Yeah, we'll leave that. You throw all your right-wing views out now, man. Anyway,
that won't make sense unless you've seen the last episode.
No, exactly. Right, cool. So let's get on to it. Let's get on to Yin and Yang, because this is what everyone came for. Really, they're like, "What the hell is Yin and Yang?"
Yeah,
they weren't asking that question, but let's pretend they were. Yin and Yang. So, I think the best way to do this is to describe the symbol, and then describe infer its meaning. So the Yin and Yang symbol, for anyone that has not seen it or has seen it but hasn't put the name to it before, I can put a vision on screen. I might not though. So again, if it's not on screen, I'm sorry. You imagine the circle. It's got a kind of wavy line through it, like an S. And on one side it's black, and on the other side it's white. And the black side has a white dot, and the white dot, the white side has a black dot. And I guess they're kind of representing two serpents or two fish or something in there. That's the eye. And the idea is that they rotate around each other. So that's what, if you've seen that, which you definitely have at some point, I think multiple people have it, tattooed or
you must
is huge. It's one of the most recognizable symbols we have as humans. So in terms of the meaning of it, it's the idea obviously is about balance, isn't it? So the Yang side is I'm going to say, I mean, you probably know this better than I do, Bob. I'm going to say the Yang side is the female side. No. The Yang side is the male side. Yeah.
The Yang side
and the
is the
Yin
male
side is the female. Yeah.
That's right.
And so the male side is about kind of like. Now, obviously, this is not like take this as you will. It's not, because some of it sounds quite bad, doesn't it? Kind of like anti.
That's the thing. It kind of is, yeah. So you've got the Yang, which is extroverted. It's strong. It's bright, and it's sunny, and it's intellect. Yeah, exactly. And it's male. And then you've got the Yin, which is female. Dark, and and it's kind of introspective, and it's cold, but it's female. So, like, don't shoot the messenger. That's just that's the way
but also I think the idea is not that females are like that.
That's the thing. That's the misconception that you take from it. It's the fact that you need both. Neither one is good nor bad. You need both. It's not about duality either. It's not about opposing forces. It's about the symbiotic relationship between the two. Which is
I also think of it like a plug. If you imagine a plug socket, you've got the male pin, which has the pins, and you've got the female pin, which has the hole the pin goes in. So the white is the male, and the darkness is what the light goes onto. You see what I mean? Okay. So it's not saying females are like this. It's saying it's the lack of is the black, and the white is the light. If you see what I mean. So does that make sense?
It does. And funnily enough, Taoism actually, it promotes this view of you needing to be both and maintain a balance between the yin and the yang. But reading through the Daodejing, it's definitely, at least in my eyes, more on the yin side of things. So they use a lot of female pronouns when they use a lot of male pronouns as well, but they actually, they call the master a she quite a few times throughout it, and they also talk about darkness. So they don't go for that typical, step into the light, follow the light or anything like that. They say you come from darkness upon darkness, and that is where true wisdom comes from. And it's about, the mother and things. So it's kind of nice in that respect. It kind of, it promotes that feminist
I think you could definitely
aspect.
You could definitely read too much into it and say, oh, it's anti-feminist. I don't think it is. I think it's
No.
using it as a tool to describe the opposite.
Yes.
And in that regard, that's all it's doing. I don't think it's saying anything bad about women.
No, and it's not saying that being a female is, as a female you're introspective because you get an extroverted female and things. It's just they're kind of assigning characteristics to a side, and then it's about some of your aspects of character are yin or yin or yang.
Yeah, so an extroverted female, they would say that again. It's not about the gender. What it's saying is that part of that person is the part on the plug, at least, that is like striving.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So think of the white part as the striving part and the black part as the kind of reclusive part. So if you're extroverted, that's a striving part. And it's not saying man is like this and woman is like this. It's saying this is a characteristic of a, for lack of a better, I think it's just for lack of a better term, masculine trait.
Exactly.
You see what I mean?
It's just, it falls into the same categories that masculinity also falls under.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. God, we probably really mucked that up, didn't we?
I know.
I really hope we didn't.
Yeah.
Cancelled on our second episode.
It's cancelled. It's an interesting one though. It's hard to kind of decipher these things, these things that are so ancient, and take your own meanings from them. We're doing the best here, guys.
The meaning of it as well, I think we've touched on it a bit, but the idea is that you can only be happy. You are only happy because you know what sadness is. So without sadness, without you actually understanding the feeling of I'm really sad, you can never truly be happy. And without the understanding of someone being like me, like beautiful,
nice,
you would never understand Bob is hideous.
Yeah, to throw that one in there, didn't you? Yeah, if you didn't have me, you wouldn't realise how beautiful Ben is.
He just accepted that as well, so peacefully.
We need each other. I've been adopting the Taoist ways, man. What can I say?
But yeah, so it's saying the opposites are what they define each other. They literally, you can't have one without the other. You can't be rich if you don't have poor. You cannot be fast if you don't have slow. Like, I think I can't remember off the top of my head, but in the Daodejing, I don't know if you have any of them written down in front of you. Any of the kind of the way they describe the opposites, because they say this gives way to this. There's a really
good verse. Yeah, it gives way to this, and this follows this. And no, I don't have that one.
You don't have it?
No, I don't have it. Yeah, sorry, failed.
There is a great verse. And when you guys go and do your own research, you'll find that verse, and it's amazing, isn't it? With the because the way they word it as well, it's not you wouldn't have this without this. It's like darkness
gives way to
or lightness gives way to darkness and things like that. And it's worded in a very a nice way that sums up.
That's the thing. So it's not saying that it's duality on opposites, which is the main point.
It's saying they can only exist without the other,
with each other.
So if you appreciate beauty, you have to appreciate like the opposite of it, the lack of beauty, the ugliness. If you appreciate feeling happy, you also have to appreciate feeling sad, because without feeling sad, you can't. And that's why they're so stoic. That's why he's smiling when he's drinking the vinegar, because he's just going, it's horrible, it's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And that's why I love it. I do. I love it. It's great, isn't it?
Me too. It gives
There's
you a lot
something
of
so
excuses in
powerful
life
about
as well.
that thought, isn't there? There's something so just relaxing about that thought. Like, oh God, I'm so stressed. But if I didn't know what calm was, I wouldn't know what this was.
Wouldn't know
I can't
exactly.
be, you know?
Yeah, and then the times that you are calm, the times that things are good, you know that they are because you've experienced the bad, and that's a good practical use of Taoism. Like, if you're going to take anything away from this, it's that, you know, you don't have to be a Taoist to adopt some of their ways and things, and some of their perspectives on things. Like, it can be applied to so many things, and I know you touched a bit on mental health earlier. Like, that could obviously be an area where Taoism could help you. You know,
massively.
It could.
Do you know why it could as well? Is because with the yin yang. So if you imagine, when you feel happy, you go up. Your dopamine increases and you feel great. And when you come down, you come right down. And if you can look, like I said earlier, if you can sit back in the back of your brain and look objectively and say, I feel bad right now, but I only feel bad because I know what good feels like, and I only feel good because I know what bad feels like. It levels that extremes of emotion out. So when you're feeling really happy, you go, okay, I'm happy. I can register that I'm happy. I feel great. Lovely. But you don't let your energy levels peak so high so that you drop off so much afterwards. And when you feel bad, you sit back and you say, yeah, I feel bad. Yeah. But I only feel this because I know the opposite, and then you think about the good things, and it rather that it kind of compresses your kind of response to stimulus. So when you feel really good, you go, okay, well, let's bring it down a notch. And when you feel really bad, you go, okay, well, let's bring it up a bit. And that's, I guess, the kind of concept of the yin and yang thing, kind of just compress it a bit. And there will be going up and there will be coming down. And that's the rotation of the black and white. That's, the black is, you're going to feel good, you're going to feel bad.
It's all part of the same kind of...
Exactly.
It's all part of the same cycle.
Ideal. I think we probably touched on kind of everything we wanted to touch on here. I think we could go on for like 5 hours on this one, but we have been going on for quite a bit.
It's so vast. Yeah, this has been a long one. I think we're probably going to have to...
We should probably do a second episode on this at some point in the future, when we kind of like a year into using Taoism, and say, how's it actually affected us? But I think what we'll do is, we'll touch upon kind of the one last thing, and the one last point I had, which was the kind of morality in Taoism. And the idea of that, obviously, it's that if you're a Taoist, you don't want to. They don't see people as good people because they do good things. They say like, if you're good, it's because you have let things take their natural course. Like you said about it being a good man and all that sort of stuff. So they don't look down on people that do good things, but they say, what's the purpose of you doing that good thing? Are you doing it to make yourself feel good? There's a lot of that kind of, every good act is a selfish act, because really you get something as well.
It's the motivation behind it. Yeah.
You give so you receive your own, like, oh, I feel good because I've made someone else feel happy. It's kind of all involved in the ego, isn't it? Which is something I think we should delve into later on with the kind of the ego topic, which is like very hard, because it's a hard topic. There's a lot of psychoanalysis stuff going on there with Jung and Freud and stuff, but it would be an interesting one to do, I think, mostly because I have no idea about it really, other than kind of the kind of joint small ideas. So it'd be fun to research it. But we wanted to talk about morality, and I think the reason we want to talk about morality, So this is going to be next week's episode, basically, isn't it? We're kind of dropping a little spoiler for you guys that made it to the end. Thank you for making it to the end.
Yeah.
We're going to do a topic on morality because I think it'll be really interesting for you guys to see who we are as people and actually get to know us a bit.
And then you can judge
and so
we're shitty people or not.
Yeah, literally. So I think we're gonna do some like morality tests live on with you guys, and I think we'll probably break down. We'll do like those personality things as well.
Ethics and
because
things, yeah.
if we look at like kind of our big 5 personality traits, and we'll kind of break it down like properly, like what are we?
Yeah.
And then you'll probably get to know us a bit. You'll learn a bit about us, but you'll also learn a bit about yourselves through us talking about kind of the big 5 personality model, and through us talking about morality. And there's something really fun actually that I've got planned for that.
Awesome.
So that will be good next week. So episode 3 is going to be a fun one, I think. So come back for that one. Definitely subscribe down below, because that definitely will be like hilarious, I think. Also, and I just want to say a big shout out, because obviously last week we released the first episode, and just the amount of merch sales we had was really like fantastic, guys. So thank you guys for supporting us. That really does mean the world. And yeah, that they're all on the way. Enjoy them, and send us your photos, tag us in them when they arrive, and then subscribe. Share the podcast with people you think would enjoy it, and we'll see you next week for the morality and personality episode 3.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys. Have a good day.
Cheers. See ya.
Bye.